name's Iggy, and I'm from Innisfail, Alberta. Last year when I was in grade 4, I'm in grade 5 now, so I'm way more mature. Anyway, I wanted a dog, so I asked my dad. He said that if I got an A+ in school, he would buy me one. Then he said something about flying pigs to my mom, but I told him I just wanted a dog, and it didn't have to fly. I told my teacher that I wanted to do a project on monsters, but she said I had to do a project on how a town makes a budget. That didn't sound like much fun, but I really wanted a dog, so my mom drove me to the library to get some books. I found some, but I didn't really get what they were saying, so the library lady said I should call the town office and ask them. That was a great idea! So that's exactly what I did. When I called the town office, they let me talk to a lady who said she was a director. I thought that was cool because I like movies, especially movies about monsters. But she said she wasn't that kind of a director. She called herself a director of corporate services, whatever that means. She told me that the town has a limited amount of money to work with each year, and most of this comes from property taxes. I didn't get what she was saying, so she told me it was like getting an allowance. The towns basically get an allowance from the people who live there. And then her and her other workers make a plan on how they're going to spend it. Some of the money gets spent on buildings and stuff. That's called a capital budget. And some get spent on bills, like the ones my mom pays. The town has bills just like my parents. The director lady said that was only the first part of making the budget. Once her and her other people were done, it had to go to the elected officials. They're called the council, and they debate about the budget. She called it debating, but it sounded more like arguing to me. My mom and dad call that discussing. Anyway, after the council reviews and debates, they agree on any changes they want. Then they vote on it, and the debating is done. The director lady said that she starts working on the budget around the time I have to go back to school in the fall. But the budget doesn't get voted on until just before Christmas break. It seems like there's a lot of time spent discussing and debating. I asked why it took so long, and she said that there are a lot of decisions and a lot of rules to making a budget. She said the town can't use more money than it gets, just like when I use all my allowance. Once my piggy bank is empty, there's no more money. She also said some people talk about a thing called a deficit, where you spend more allowance than you get. I think that sounds great. But she said towns aren't allowed to do that, so the money they spend in the budget has to be the same as the allowance they get. My dad gives me allowance, but the town gets its allowance from the people who live in the town. She called this property taxes, which is something I always hear my dad talking about. My dad always says taxes are scarier than monsters, but I don't think so. I've never seen anyone get scared at a movie about taxes. The director lady also said the town saves up money called reserves. She said it's kind of like saving money in an extra piggy bank for when stuff breaks. Stuff like sewers and pipes. My dad always yells when stuff breaks, so I think he needs some reserves. That was all the questions I had, so I said bye to the lady from the town. Then I sat down to write my report. It took a long time, and I had to work really hard to think all the things the director lady talked about. But I kept thinking about my dog, so I kept going until my report was done. Basically, my report went like this. The director makes a plan on how the town will spend its allowance. This happens in the fall. They can only spend what they have, and they put some towards building stuff, some towards paying for things they need, and some into a reserve. She talks about it for a few weeks with her other workers until they agree. Then they give it to council, and the council debates. This happens around the time of year when it snows for the first time. When council agrees, they vote on the budget. This is usually right before Christmas. The next year, around the time summer holidays start, the town collects taxes so they can do all the things they agreed to do in the budget. And that's it. It's actually not that hard to understand. Anyway, when I got my report back, I was nervous. I really wanted a dog, so I was afraid to look at my mark. I got an A. Plus, I showed my dad. He got real pale. He said it was because he was so happy. Anyway, now I have a new best friend. And I know how budgets work too.